passing the Ghana National Enterprise Policy. We also want to create an avenue for youth coalitions to identify and advocate for issues to promote development in Ghana. Then again, we want to see increased skills and improved capacity and financial resource of youth and youth-focused CSOs to generate income activities for themselves. Now, as such output, we also want to support youth-led and youth-focused CSOs with grants for income-generating activities through competitive funding. We also want to look at another expected output is to see increased financial, organizational, and technical resources for youth-led communities. Now, under this, we want to organize a competitive challenge to award funding for innovation and then innovative initiatives within our various youth bodies. We also want to continue to see an improved skills, resource, and capacity of empowered young social entrepreneurs to develop innovative solutions to problems faced by our community members. Now, under such outlook, we want to conduct gap analysis, develop tailored new curriculum, so that we can build the capacity of the youth within our community. We want to recruit innovation hubs to also support in implementing this project. We also want to provide training and coaching for social entrepreneurs within our community. By so doing, we also want to look at coaching them and then organizing competitions for them, creating learning environments for our youth. Then, whilst we talk about what we want to see and then the actions that we want to implement, we are looking at them as various thematic areas. So we are looking at youth who are implementing activities within the gender empowerment sphere. We are looking at agricultural and environmental protection. We are looking at peace, security. We are looking at culture, the creative industry, and then the digital space. So all the youth who are implementing some of these activities will be looked at under this project. Now, who is implementing this project? Already, as we said, we have Sontaba, we have Social Innovation Africa, we have SOS taking the lead on the implementation of this project, and with SOS in the Netherlands giving us the technical support in the implementation of this project. At the end of the day, we want to target 300 youth-led and youth-focused CSOs across the 6 regions. And then we also want to look at 500 disadvantaged social entrepreneurs. We want to also get the target of 90 young leaders from disadvantaged communities and also engage our media partners. We want to engage 60 of them, and then overall, we want to look at 500,000 participants benefiting indirectly from this project. Now, in the project, we also want to see youth who are resourced. So there are grants within the project. We have the large grant which we will, through competitive pitching, the coalitions will receive some grants, and then we also want to give small grants to our CSOs. We would also want to give medium grants, and we are looking at 20 social entrepreneurs, and then women also getting such grants. Then we also want to see 80 of entrepreneurs and youth also getting some grants to implement this project. Now, we want to look at our exit strategy. Because we do not want to work alone, that is why we have all of us as stakeholders within this project. So when we are done implementing these activities, we are going to hand over to other state or non-state institutions and actors who can keep running these initiatives so that we can see the fruition of this initiative. I will end here. Thank you for all.
Thank you very much, Rex. Like I said, Rex is the project coordinator. And let me acknowledge the presence of the EU Ghana Youth Sounding Board members, Mr. Matai Yapi. Thank you very much. Yes. So now we know what the project is about. And we will welcome to the podium Mrs. Marion Duran to make a presentation on youth projects. Marion.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much all for coming. My name is Marion. I'm working for villages in the Netherlands. In Dutch we say kind, just so that you know. It's my big honor and pleasure to be here today and to share a little bit what our role will be, to also share a little bit the history of the collaboration between SOS Ghana and the Netherlands, and the experience that we have been building up over the last 10 years, basically, in different countries in Africa, and particularly here in Ghana. I must say it's a big privilege for me to actually be part of the first EU-funded project that SOS Ghana will be implementing directly, because we've been working together in 2 previous EU-funded projects, and then we were actually as SOS NL in the lead, and SOS Ghana was implementing. So now the tables have turned, and I think it's a beautiful development, and I'm very pleased that I can actually still somehow be part of it from the sideline. And you can all find obviously on all SOS NL. Let me just take you through some of the history of SOS in youth empowerment. I will talk about our experience, the holistic approach that we have developed, some examples from the core life skills curriculum that we have developed, what can be expected from SOS NL. Why is youth empowerment so important for us all here, and especially for SOS NL? Because we see that youth need support to actually become economically self-reliant, to build up their self-esteem, and to also build up their resilience. Because a lot of youth cannot count on their families, and they don't have the necessary support network. So some you may all be aware is we would like to break the cycle of poverty and support the transition into adulthood, to respond to the high youth unemployment rates and bridge the gap between supply and demand on the labor market, to promote youth leadership and participation, and ensure long-term child protection impact, so that the youth, once they are actually become adults and they also have their own family, that their children will not suffer the way they have been suffering. So we've been working and building experience in a holistic approach, focusing on a combination of the following ingredients, so to say. The core life skills has been the basis for all, really building on the what we call core life skills, so communication, leadership, presentation, collaboration, and also entrepreneurship and digital skills. And then the next step is always the hard skills training, so to really learn a profession. And the whole time, actually, the youth is being coached and mentored by the staff. And we also provide them with internships, access to startup kits, and the last step after basically a full year is the graduation and the certificates. So over the last 10 years as well, together with our different countries where we've been implementing similar projects in 5 countries, or in 5 projects, 2 of them in Ghana, 1 in Guinea-Bissau, 1 in Malawi, and they were all funded by the EU. 1 was funded by our Ministry of Affairs and was implemented in 3 countries, Mali, Nigeria and Somalia. They all obviously have different objectives and different approaches, but main focus is on youth empowerment for employment. So in Ghana, you may be aware that over the last 5 years, it ended last year, we've been implementing together with UNCDF a project called Green. In 2 regions, 10 municipalities, or MNDs. So I think that the team here in Kumasi has really gained very relevant experience in the implementation of that project that can actually benefit the current project. And it actually all started with MDU, No Business as Usual. It started in 2017, funded for about 70% as well by the EU. And this afternoon, I believe you'll be able to visit the office where the meeting started. And when it actually ended, we were able as SOSNL to continue funding it because of its success and the impact it had made on so many young people in Kumasi and specifically in the municipality of Asokoro Makom. So we have now called it Youth Empowerment Center. And since the EU-funded project ended, SOSNL has been able to continue supporting so many more youth from the municipality, but also from rural communities in Kumasi and now also from communities in Asiakwa. Always focusing on the different topics and taking the core life skills and as the foundation. So just to give you a little bit idea of how the core life skills have been built up, it has 3 main components: personal development, interpersonal development, career development, and each and every component has different topics. And it's actually given in a very participatory way. We use a lot of videos and games and plays and the role story. So especially Green, that was implemented in very remote rural areas. I think that was a very successful way to actually really involve the participants in their own learning trajectory. We also always touch on different thematic areas like SRHR, green, digital skills, gender, and coaching is key. And also we organize a lot of events where we focus specifically on a thematic area or on skills in general. So last but not least, as I mentioned, we will have a different role in the implementation of this project. Our main aim is to support SOS Ghana in the implementation, but obviously we will also be there for the other co-applicants. And our support will focus on quality assurance, trend management, the curriculum development, capacity assessment, advocacy, and anything else that comes up. thank you and wish you all good luck.
Thank you, Marion. Let's give another round of applause, please. It is interesting to note that all these experiences she talked about started with funding from the European Union in 2017. And SOS Netherlands has been a support to SOS. Thank you very much, Marion. Briefly, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Ministry of Gender in the Ashanti region. Thank you very much, Madam. And representatives of the Department of Social Welfare from Asopolimo. Thank you, Madam. All right. And we move on. Now, statements from our co-applicants. We would like to begin with a statement from Sompara.
It's the month of Ramadan, and we could not have been blessed with a new project beyond this month. So congratulations to us. I wish to express our gratitude to the EU for co-funding the Spark Change Makers project. And let me apologize again for not mentioning this here, but I just want to stand on the protocol. For me, what started as an initiative of seeing what we can do with youth have come to bear fruit today. And this is a collective effort by all of us. Again, congratulations to us for winning this. As an organization, we pride itself not as a women's rights organization, but a youth serving organization. I think this is a clear demonstration of our localization agenda, where at the local level, we are priding ourselves to move such a big project forward. And for me, the Spark Change Makers project is going to be an impactful project because it's going to provide jobs for youth, considering again the high unemployment youth population that we have. This project, we believe, will strengthen the capacity of youth focused and youth-led civil society organization. And I'm very optimistic with our agenda, especially on advancing advocacy for youth involvement and participation. I'm optimistic that this project will get us the National Social Enterprise policy reviewed and probably passed. The value of our collaboration, I believe, will foster learning and evidence of youth initiative as well as challenges that are facing young people. And as an organization, Somkaba will bring to bear its 20 years expertise on working with youth and youth-focused organization, women-led organization, and their coalition and networks will bring to bear our expertise to ensuring that this project becomes a success. On that note, I wish us well and to say Ramadan Mubarak again. Thank you.
Let's give her a round of applause. Very much, Madam, for your reassuring words. Now, now we'll take a statement from Social Innovation Africa.
Good morning. And I say thank you very much. I'm really honored by the this has been a dream for many years. A coalition of a number of youth NGOs working together to advocate for sustainability and youth entrepreneurship. Our economy needs to diversify. We have two lands and lands on the west. And as we have seen, it hasn't produced much. We need to look at entrepreneurship, social enterprise, impact investing, and so I have been believing that for a long time, a number of us come together and need able to advance this agenda, national to get the social enterprise and to begin conversations to look at CSO sustainability and entrepreneurship, all leading to many of the problems we have in our society can trace back. I am not saying that when there is in nations that are wealthier, there are no problems. But a lot of the things we struggle with has to do with poverty. And so we have to declare war on poverty. And that is the issue. All the vices, all the challenges, and parents managing their children, all of that. So I am very happy. I am grateful to this and being a wonderful lady. Thank you very much. And really the compassion of all of us in this group that has come together to create this project. And I hope that this is the start of many more to come as we build a resilient future for Ghana's youth. Thank you very much.
Let's continue to clap for her. Thank you very much. We now call SOS Children's Villages Ghana to make a statement. SOS Children. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking the other way, so.
Thank you so much. We are extremely grateful to the EU for trusting us over the years. We have shifted our work in Ghana based on the trust the EU put in us 2016, 2017. We started the Low Business Dilution Project, and then also in a consortium working and SMB on the Great Project. We want to impact the lives of young people because we were all children and we grew up to be young people. And the population of young people is substantially large in Ghana. So we are grateful. Hello? We are grateful that we have these two partners working. We want to we learn together and work together and achieve all the outcome for the young people in this country. For the young people, we have to make sure that we do everything we can do to impact for the youth, because they are the change maker. They will become the people need us to take our places. So we want to make sure that we focus on the issue of empowerment, on the issues of justice, on the issues of making sure that they can be trained the right resources are provided so that they can also impact the lives of themselves and their community. This is what we mean by truth. And when you read the concept of the project, we are extremely grateful to the European Union because they come with innovative project. I don't know how to come with this idea, but the project is very innovative. And if you follow this project, you will actually really impact young people. We have read the project, we are very happy of what it requires and what it intends to do. We have a mission to hold ourselves accountable, hold the young people accountable, hold our community accountable, so that the European Union can be interested in what we do and we can continue to work together. I want to say that as we enter the partnership, let's learn together, let's work together, so that this should not be the last time we work together. We can continue to work together as partners and grow together. Again, to Excellency Netherlands, thank you for all the technical support you gave us. It's always a learning trajectory for us, and we want to make sure we become part of the development agenda of this country. We want to help support the effort of government so that we can succeed in the sustainable development goals set up now, and what comes next after that. We have to make sure, also in this project, as we start, we show protection of young people. We have to work on safeguarding of young people. We have to make sure that they are protected, they are safeguarded within the project. I want to say some TABA and social African innovation. Thank you so much. We have started together, we are learning together, and let's achieve together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kekula. Now, we want to have a panel discussion on youth empowerment in Ghana. Before we start, I would like to invite Mr. Chris Agbesi-Tete. He's the Youth Empowerment Officer from Social Innovation Africa, to tell us who a youth is. You may think we know. All right.
And I'm studying to host. I remember when I was a youth. Now, I am not classified a youth anymore because I have some gray hair. Not even my age. Ghana has one of the highest number of youth population at approximately 2% based on 2021 census data, making the nation's demographic structure highly youth dominated. That's about 11.7 million of our population. This calls for enhanced policies to address education, employment, and other youth challenges. The National Youth Policy provides a framework, a national framework that is aimed at empowering young people and ensuring their active participation in the country's social, economic, and political development. The policy recognizes that youth represent a significant portion of the population and are a vital resource for national progress. It therefore seeks to create an environment where young people can develop their skills, access opportunities, and contribute meaningfully to national development. According to the youth policy, a youth is defined as a person between the ages of 15 and 35. This is quite different from the UN age of 15 to 24. And this is important because we have peculiar problems as a nation. And it's important that we look at what works in our local situation. This definition acknowledges that this age group is in a transitional stage of life, moving from dependence to independence, and from education into employment and leadership roles. The policy views youth not as beneficiaries of development programs, but also as partners and active contributors to national growth and development. Despite the importance of the youth to national development, Ghana's youth face a number of significant challenges. I'm sure that all of us as nations have been doing the little we can in our various ways to address many of these challenges. One of the main challenges is youth unemployment and underemployment, which limits economic independence and increases among young people. Many youth also experience limited access to quality education and vocational training, resulting in a mismatch between the skills they possess and those required in the labor market. Other key challenges: youth teenage pregnancy, poor access to health services, in decision making. Our youth vulnerable and social vices. Additionally, youth in rural areas often face greater disadvantages due to fewer economic opportunities and limited infrastructure. And that's why I'm very excited that this project is not only situated in Accra and Kumasi, but also other regions outside the major cities, so that rural people can also benefit from this project. To address these challenges, the government of Ghana, through its like the National Youth Employment Agency, the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, implements various programs and designed to empower young people. The policy emphasizes education, skills training, and entrepreneurship development to improve employability and self-reliance among the youth. Government initiatives focus on providing vocational training, promoting innovation, and supporting youth-led businesses to reduce unemployment. Over the last 10+ years, I have observed that many of Ghana's development partners like the EU, GIZ, and organizations like Mastercard Foundation and many other donors have been more focused and strategic on initiatives and programs for youth development and employment creation. The National Youth Policy also promotes youth participation in governance, encouraging young people to take part in decision-making processes at local and national levels. In addition, it supports health and social protection programs, including awareness campaigns on reproductive health, substance abuse prevention, and mental well-being. It's also important to have greater partnerships between government, private sector, civil society, organizations, and international partners to encourage and expand opportunities for youth development. In conclusion, Ghana's youth policy, national youth policy, recognizes young people as a key asset of national development. By addressing challenges related to employment, education, health, and participation, the policy aims to empower youth to become productive, responsible citizens and contribute positively to the country's growth and future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. And now we are going to have a panel discussion on youth empowerment. And so I have the singular honor of inviting Ms. Aisha Shaibu, who is a field officer for the Spark Change Makers project from South Africa. Aisha.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and I am Mrs. That is just by the way. Good morning, people, and thank you for joining us. So when I was told I'll be moderating, I was very happy until I saw it. And then the first thing that came to my mind was, what did the moderator post? Okay. So, just in the way. To introduce my candidates for today's discussion, it's going to be thank you. Which is going to be hello. Okay. The other mic doesn't like me. Okay, so today's discussion is going to be on youth empowerment in Ghana, and we'll be focusing on the real challenges young people face, what empowerment truly means, and the roles different actors must play to ensure no young person is left behind. So to join me in this discussion, we have Ms. Gisela Spriceover, who is a team leader in governance and security EU delegation Ghana. Please give a round of applause. And Mr. Sadi Adam Mohammed, Director, Ministry of Development and Empowerment, representing Mr. I hope we are not ambushing. Okay, thank you. And we have members, the E sound member. We have Farida Osman, former beneficiary, the EU Business as Usual project by SOS Children's Village. And we have Marlon, I got your name right? Program Manager, Children's Village. Thank you very much. And you are all welcome to my panel. Okay, so we can start. And okay, thank you. So these are going to be our panelists for today's discussion. So I would like to hear maybe some initial words from you, just on youth empowerment, if you have anything for that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gisela Schwarz-Huber. I'm from the youth delegation. As it's mentioned, I'm the team leader for governance and security. And within my team, that's the youth portfolio is also. So the first question I understand is on empowerment.
Yes.
Youth empowerment, way forward, and how young people.
Okay, so the first question will be from your experience, what do you consider the most pressing challenges that young people in Ghana today face?
I would name 3 challenges. The first one being related of representation and youth inclusion in decision making. Sometimes youth consultations are being rightfully so criticized as symbolic rather than really meaningful. Another challenge I would mention are low youth employment rates. When doing some background research for this panel, we came to a figure that was actually quite shocking to me. This is from some official records. We found that less than 9% of young graduates can get a job within 1 year of graduating. And the last challenge I would mention here is the lack of sustainable business environment for youth-funded entrepreneurs. So many of the young entrepreneurs do fail after the second year of the operation because there's no sustainable funding.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sami, this is your area.
Thank you so much. I think I was listening very carefully to policy as the gentleman was reading. I was also passionate, and I got moved when he was mentioning some of the challenges. I say so because of the intensity and the in-depth, the effort that went into the development of the national youth policy, which I led. I led the development of this policy, and it took us over a year that we're moving from one point of the country to the other, one hamlet to the other hamlet. And we met over 6,000 people across all the regions. So the challenges have already been mentioned. But I will take a cue from one investor, who was asked that you have a lot of money, you have a lot of companies, and you are just the only one. How do you manage your company? Then he said that he manages a company with just 2 words or 2 instructions. Then he asked me what the instructions. He said that the instructions are, I tell my company and my workers, do the work in this company as if the company were to be your own company. And what is the second one? Says the second one is remember the first one. So I would say that the biggest challenge of the young people of our country is employment. The second challenge is employment. The third challenge is employment. The fourth challenge is employment. The fifth challenge is employment. But there are then some intriguing factors that we have left to why they have that inability or insufficiency or lack of employment. Those challenges, I believe, we will discuss as we move along. Because we are looking at employment on a broader perspective, but with specific target and focus on young persons. So I'll leave it here, and when we have further discussion, we will elaborate what then are the foundation and critical challenges that need to work with hard, to the extent that it's leading to despair, the demoralization of the young persons of our country. We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so to Marita and then Matthias, how do these challenges differ for young women and then young men?
Well, thanks so much. I am Matthias. I'm a social entrepreneur, just to give a background, social entrepreneur and an innovator. I currently am on the YSD with the European Union on Education. One thing I would like to say is that youth empowerment should move beyond consultation to rather co-creation. And mostly we talk about youth empowerment, where we try to provide skills to young people, we try to provide them the opportunity, but then young people are most often left behind when it comes to designing these opportunities. So I think that is the first statement I would like to make. But just to address your question, I think young people, young men and women should be able to have access to these opportunities. We need to be able to design gender sensitive programs and also ensure that the programs that we are designing are also taken into consideration when it comes to gender sensitivity, where young women and young men are able to have access to certain opportunities that will make them thrive. In the work that I do, we design solar power refrigeration solution for farmers across the rural communities. And in these experiences, we see that mostly young women are involved in the post-harvest activities. And that is where the struggle is a lot. Of course, there are some struggles at the pre-harvest, but then when it comes to the post-harvest, moving the produce right on the farm to even getting it on our tables, it involves a lot of activities. And women mostly play the role in there. But then we see that sometimes girls in school, because they need to go to the farm to help their parents, either thresh their grains or sort out vegetables or even take the produce to the market. So I think we need to be able to design solutions that are taking into consideration the fact that young men and young women should be given the equal opportunities and to be able to have access to solutions that will help them thrive. So the solutions that we are giving sometimes help these young people to stay in the classrooms rather than staying out of the classrooms during school hours. So basically, just to conclude, I believe that young people should be co-creators, should be involved in designing the opportunities that we think will empower young people, rather than just designing it without them. And I believe that the EU Youth Sounding Board is a clear example of how the EU is involving young people in policy implementation.
Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. I'm Frida Usman, the fashion designer and the creative mind behind Apparel by Farida and Apparel by Farida Statement. I believe empowerment should be inclusive. Rural youth, young women, and persons with disabilities shouldn't be left behind. I also believe that If opportunities are only centered in the urban areas, we help spread inequality rather than reducing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Myron? My question to you is, these challenges that have been mentioned, which of them do you think are mostly misunderstood or overlooked?
Maybe not so much misunderstood, but underestimated.
Okay.
And I think it is the sustainability of it, because we can, and I like what you said, access to opportunities. So we can provide opportunities to youth to actually get proper education, training, preparation, and then they find a job. But then actually to be able to stay in that job, or to be able to stay the business that they start. Then the next challenge, because we know that we operate in a very informal economy. So one day you run your business, next day you may not be able. So for me, key to actually build the resilience and the sustainability within the young people themselves, so that they're able to confront any challenge that comes on their path, and be able to have sufficient courage to continue making their dream come true.
Okay, thank you very much. So, we've highlighted the challenges. Let me finish it and respond. I'll come back to Zara. Since you are in the government, maybe I'll pose this question to you and then Mr. Simon. So, what should be the government's primary responsibility in youth empowerment beyond policy statements?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not representing government.
All right, then Mr. Sani will take that.
Would you like to take that question?
Thank you so much. I think I will pick it from number one, the rep from SOS. First of all, we need to understand what empowerment is. I just returned from UP, and I was talking to a group. What the connotation of empowerment is and what it means to the youth. There are two elements of providing power to a particular person. Like empowerment is simply providing some power. Now, power has two components. First component of power is capacity. The person must have the capacity. But capacity alone is not enough. You must also have the influence. That's what makes power. So for us to be able to bring young people to a level where they can be empowered or be empowered to deliver as expected, we must look at these two factors. Capacity building includes financial capacity, knowledge and skills capacity, infrastructure capacity, information and data services, as well as providing them with the direction of the capacity. It is not basically just about building strength and energy. Young people in our country have a lot of energy. They have a lot of strength. But as to whether or not they have the knowledge and skills to be able to take advantage of the opportunities available is something we need to discuss. To know whether or not we have been able to provide enough infrastructure that will support them to take advantage of the opportunities that are available is also another way to look at. For example, agriculture is one of the areas that we can actually employ the vast majority of our youth. But the question is, how are we modernizing agriculture to attract the youth into agriculture? So you find that in Ghana we tag ourselves that about 65% of our labor force is in agriculture. But we also know that close to about 90% of the labor force in agriculture, the average age is about 45, 50 years. That tells you that young persons are not going into agriculture. One, because of the tedious nature of it. Two, because of the nature that it is in that it's not very attractive. It's even risky. Because you cannot rely on agriculture mainly on rain-fed agriculture. So we need to provide infrastructure. So that's about capacity. Now, when you are able to provide the capacity, you need to add some amount of influence. And what it will mean is that you need to create a status quo where young persons are found in the decision-making levels. So once they are part of the decision-making levels and they contribute to decision-making, then they become more powerful and influential. So the power of government is not just policy, but to ensure that we make the right choices and investment that will make the youth of our country, in every part of the world, very secure. So this is what the government will do. And I'm sure that at the appropriate time again, we will be deliberating. Government intervention in many cases have been ad hoc. But those ad hoc interventions cannot help. I've said in many occasions that you do not need to change the way you think. The NGOs like SOS, like Sintaba and others are already in the front and delivering as expected. What government wants to do is to strengthen collaboration and partnership with these institutions to deliver the in terms of empowering the young people of our country. Beyond that, government will provide the enabling infrastructure that will enable the youth to take advantage. But you also take the NGOs and other civil society organizations that are also in the front, then direct the energies of the youth into the utilization of those infrastructure for their benefit and for their own income. So these are some of the few things that I will say for now.
So still on you, Mr. Sani, how well is our education system preparing young people?
Okay. I think that one of the things I was praying not to happen is what you are praying. Because I do lecture and I do a lot of research. I can tell you that one of the problems of developing countries, and especially in Ghana, is also the nature of higher education. Number one, for overemphasis on formal education to the detriment of non-formal and informal education, that you mop it up for education is also problematic for us. Okay? Now, we basically think that education simply means English. In fact, the person who speaks the best of English is the most educated person. But education is not equal to English. Indeed, somebody can even go to school and acquire all the degrees, but they are not educated. Somebody may not go to school and is educated. Okay? Because education simply means the broad acquisition of knowledge that makes a person a functional member of society. You can apply this through formal, informal, and non-formal. Just ask yourself, those who have come out with the Facebook, the iPhones, and all the goodies that we are thinking about, the right gadgets and so on and so forth, what are the number of degrees that they have? And see, we have also even added insult to injury by making education purely exam-oriented. So anybody who fails examination is not fit in our educational structure. And as if we have impregnated the chief wife, and in the conversation we have slapped and elder. We have said that it's not just merely the grade, but the marks. So I can acquire an A, but my A is useless unless it is 90% or 98. So it has drained a lot of resources. And the worst of it is the direction that we are going in, the choices of the curriculum. For example, where we are now in the world, you all know that in the next 10 to 20 years, the gig economy alone is going to recruit close to 2 billion people. The tech and gig economy. But you find over 100 universities of our country churning out over 100,000 university students in classical learning, to the neglect of STEM and technology education. So you ask yourself, where are you taking these people? Nobody says that those courses are not important. But where are you taking them? To the direction of the educational system in itself. That is why we mentioned in the national policy document that there's a huge skills mismatch between the journey out from the universities and the other tertiary institutions and the job requirements. Because your job requirements in terms of what you train might be very projected to look at what the avenues and the opportunities are moving forward. Those opportunities does not lie in the kind of curriculum that we are training on. So the educational system itself is quite good. For us in a ministry, we want to work with the Ministry of Education to look at the line of education, the threshold, and see those functionalities that we need to look at. There's already a proven research on how these things are done. And so we want to work towards that.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Matthias, what needs to change in skills development and career guidance? I think we take that with Marina. Skills development and career guidance.
So, what needs to change in skills development and career guidance? I think it's a very good question. So, just to give an example, I studied visual arts when I was in SHS. When I went to the university, I studied design. Today, I'm leading an architect venture where we are producing solar power solutions. We developed solar powered cold storage units. We developed solar powered trailer. We also developed a tricycle that is refrigerated. So we have it. And mostly when I go places, people ask, how were you able to do this? But I think it's sort of like connects to what you said. What needs to change in mentorship and skill and guidance. I think it's about letting people know what they can do beyond what they see, what they see around them. Mostly, I remember when I started my idea, people were telling me that I'm not an engineer, so our work is going to fail, and we should leave this for the engineers. People said that, oh, when you go out there to pitch, you are not going to get the support because you are not an engineer. So I think some of these comments mostly will sort of like demoralize you. So I think the key thing that has to change is that we need to be able to motivate young people. Let them understand that no matter what, no matter the idea they have, or whether or not the idea is even like able to be implemented or not, they should give it a step. Because I believe that we've seen several ideas. I've met with a lot of young people working on different innovations. Mostly what they say is that we go for a pitch out there or we speak with someone and then they tell us that this idea cannot be implemented. So I think we need to be able to start with encouraging the young people and then giving them that kind of first bets. And I believe that that is why this program has been established. To be able to give young people that first bet. Because imagine, for me, I never had any funding from when I started working. I started as a volunteer. We did different projects in different rural communities until I saw a global student competition. So we won a student competition to start my idea. And globally, we worked with close to 1,000 students from around the world, and we won first prize. We received $25,000 to start our venture. That first bet made a huge difference. And because now, when we got the support, we also were coached, we also were paired with a mentor. And then we also had access to technical guidance. I believe that with these two, it helped me because I wasn't coming from an engineering background. So now I spoke with mentors who told me that, hey, you're not coming from an engineering background, but then you can learn. You know, you don't have to be on the field putting together wires to probably crossfire because you don't have the experience. But then you can learn the basics. You can learn to understand that when you are setting up a solar system, these are the resources you need. You need the solar panels, you need the inverter, you need the battery system, you need breakers, you need this and that. You need to have that basic knowledge. But imagine I didn't have access to mentorship, but I didn't have people who were able to encourage me that this will work. I don't think that would be possible. But today I can set up a basic solar system. I understand how it works, but I never had any formal training. So that I agree with what Sarah was saying, because at the end of the day, we only talk about writing the exam and passing the exam. But we also sometimes forget about how to implement the solutions on ground. How do we implement the ideas, even in schools, the kind of ideas that we present in classrooms. How can we implement them beyond the classroom? The project that we write for final year thesis, how can we, implement this project into something actionable, something that will help the society? But at the end of the day, we see most of these theses being left on the shelf in offices, but they never come out to become something meaningful. So I think our education system is also linked, and the kind of mentorship and people we have around us is also playing a very key role as to whether or not we'll be able to thrive as young people. Because mostly, I've seen a lot of young people stop what they are doing because they got people tell them that this is not going to work. You don't have the experience. Go and sit somewhere. Do this instead. So instead of them trying to understand that this is the vision someone has, sometimes they do not see the ultimate goal the young person probably has, but then they tend to demoralize the person and change it. So I think as part of this program, I saw the objectives that there is going to be technical support, the startups for the young people that will be part of this program as beneficiaries who also prepared with innovation hubs. I think that is the way to go. And I feel at the end of the day, we do not just need to give young people access to these opportunities and just leave them. We need to be able to do constant follow-ups and ensure that they are implementing the solutions on ground. So that at the end of the day, it gets to also inspire other people to do more. Thank you.
So you will realize from what you were saying, you say it's not an engineer, it's not an engineer. What are they thinking about? They are merely thinking that if you have a certificate, that shows that he's an engineer. But we have very practical examples. I remember that when I was in tech for one of my master's degrees, there was this professor in electrical engineering who went and bought a solar company. Came with the manual, he was reading the manual and he saw that it didn't work. And they went to Kumasi and got a gentleman, a young man who came. He hasn't read anything and then he fixed it. Which of them is a professor? It's about problem solving. So basically, as I said, that is the biggest problem of our educational system, which we have. Yes, I just want to speak that.
As a young entrepreneur, I have seen how access to skills can change a young person's life. So I believe empowerment should go beyond just organizing workshops and then a short-term program. Young people should be equipped with relevant market skills, access to finance, mentorship as I said, and then they should also be provided with capital so as to help to economic independence.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Marshall, what's your take on that?
I can only we're going to ask a different question. Whatever.
Okay, so the question was what needs to change in skills development and career guidance?
Yes. I think I can confirm what has been said already.
Okay.
The gap between formal education and the skills you need in practice sometimes is too big.
Yes.
That's why SBS is always very key to provide what we call the core life skills together with the whole package. Yeah? And I think we have a beautiful example here. But to add to that, I think the access to finance is where what we do actually see as our next challenge, because we provide the young people with startup kits to give them literally a start, but then afterwards to be able to grow, they need some additional support. So I think that is also access to finance is also an important topic to not forget.
Okay. So, Marshall, still on you. How can the private sector move beyond just internships to meaningful youth employment?
You mentioned internships, and I think that's a very good way actually for the private sector to get to know the youth and the youth to get to know the private sector and what the private sector is actually demanding from them. So yeah, I think they should also very clearly indicate what kind of skills they are looking for and help us and other organizations to build up a manual to be able to give an answer to their demands. So we should always be talking to each other and make sure that we speak the same language.
Okay, thank you very much. Matthias, you have something to say on that? Because I realized that these are the private sector mostly they accept interns, you come, they work you, and gone. Nobody really employs you after that. So
yeah, I agree. And for me, coming from such a background, I mean, today my organization we started launching in 2021. In less than 5 years, we've been able to impact about 10,000 farmers. We've had like more than 200 indirect jobs through our work. We've been getting interns, we've also been getting national service personnel. We work with NEIP, and I would like to thank NEIP because we did a 2-year program where we were able to get access to the NSS personnel. And one thing we always do within our organization, and one thing we're also very proud of is the fact that our team is under 35, everyone. And what we do is when we get interns and national service personnel joining us, what we tell them is that don't just see this as a 1-year opportunity for you to pass through and go back. We try to let them understand the opportunities that they can have as part of joining our organization. I came here with Prince. Prince here joined us in 2023 as a national service personnel. Today he's on our management team. And this shows how youth-led, enterprises are creating opportunities for people to also unleash their potential. Because I think that at the end of the day, we need to be able to understand that we are not just building this alone, but then we need to build with people. We need to also build with people who have access to, who have interest, who have enthusiasm, who are ready to solve problems. And so to private sector and to even young people. For young people, I just want you to understand that no matter what organization you find yourself in, you need to be able to let them understand the skills that you are bringing on board. Identify problems within their organization, and then try and propose solutions. Don't just get in. I know it can be very bureaucratic, especially if you are in very large organizations. We see a lot of young people running big organizations. I have friends who went to do NSS in big organizations. Today they don't have jobs. They stopped working on innovations that they were leading to go work with big organizations. The challenge with big organizations is that sometimes you get in there, it's very difficult for you to be seen, very difficult for you to be able to get your ideas out there. If care is not taken, you might not really be able to unleash your potential. But then there are other small and medium organizations where you get to actually identify problems, where they give you the opportunity to share and whatever ideas you may have, whatever experiences, and that is what will help you grow as a young person. And so that's what I just want to know.
Okay, thank you very much. So back to Mr. Sani. What can development partners and CSOs, how can CSOs and development partners better align their support with local realities?
So, just to say
private sector generally. There's nowhere a country in the world has developed without private sector participation. Private sector is the biggest engine of growth. In fact, government's role is just to provide a enabling environment for the private sector to grow and employ. Let me say that one of the good things the private sector can do for young persons in our country, anywhere in the world, is to stop being greedy. I'm saying that because I've worked on the research which is yet to be published. And I can tell you, so if you have a company, for example, whose profit would fall from 64% to 53% by employing 1,000 young persons, and the company refuses to employ, this is not great. If you employ, it doesn't mean you are going to run at a loss. Your profit is only going to reduce from 60-something percent to 53%. And that's just for a short period. Such a company has refused to recruit. You only go there, as we said, to do the internship and so on, and when they are done, they are going to go. So, any time, and I can tell you, any time that there's fire outbreak at home, and you hear the leaders shouting and crying and all those stuff, it's not because of their works. It is because they have buried monies. Those monies are spent. And the data shows clearly that every average person in Kantomanto or every average person in Akona can absorb 2 or 3 graduates who will help you to manage your accounts, manage your business, and so on and so forth. Why are they not employed or recruiting young persons? It's greed. So I think that we need to look at that one. Sometimes we blame the young person that they don't show interest, they come in and they have a lot of attitude and so on and so forth. But dimensions are changing. There are a lot of them that are committed and they are ready to sacrifice. But we must also make a move to welcome them. So that's what I want to say briefly about the private sector involved, and then to come back to you.
How CSOs and development partners can better align their support to local realities.
The first thing is that we are expecting that the CSOs will have a common framework on which they operate, directed by the state. The state must have a common framework, a common objective, beyond the policy. That this is where we want to go in the next 3-4 years in terms of investment of the young person's health. And CSOs must work in the same common framework to achieve common milestones which can measure. That's one. They must form this kind of alliance that we are forming. Okay, so once you have a kind of alliance, it gives you the strength to be able to direct resources and reduce duplications. Because what then happens is that you find that from the research that we have done, there are quite a number of NGOs across the country. But the question is, what happened to the youth, even after all these NGOs and all these investments? It is because there is no coherence. So we expect that NGOs can do it differently, coming together and working together, such as this example we are seeing today. And that will help direct the channels. Then we must speak with a common voice. There are a lot of NGOs that are not talking in terms of the way that we expect them to talk. So that if you have one NGO that is going in a particular way, which is creating some kind of impact on the youth, and there's another NGO that do not seem to be impacting on improving like the way of multiplier effect, then that can be problematic. So we are expecting such a coherent transition that will create multiplier effect on the youth market.
Thank you very much. So, Gisela? When we talk about youth empowerment, who is often left out of the conversation?
May I take the question on involvement of development partners?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
This one as well, it's also development partners, so
Yes,
you can only
development.
respond to that one. So from EU side, I would say that our EU Youth Action Plan and strategy is very much in line with the Ghanaian youth strategy. And let me shortly outline what the pillars are. And explain also what we do on it. So it's, we operate under the motto engage, empower, connect. What do we mean by that? So engage, I'm looking at the colleague from the youth sounding board, is a very good example. You're already mentioning we need to co-create. We don't work for you, we work with you, ideally. And our youth sounding board, which allows you to voice your opinions on EU policies, on EU projects, etc., is an example of our engaged approach. Another one would be that the EU supports the National Youth Authority when it comes to the elaboration of this National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. So we're funding workshops for youth participation to contribute to that plan. The second component is on empowerment, and this is why we're here today. This very project Spark is an example of our empower approach, but we do have others. For instance, the EU Ghana Pact for Skills. It was already mentioned just before that there's a big gap between the skills of the youth and what the labor market needs. So with that project, we do try to boost skills on digital, on green economy, etc. Bridge the gap. And last but not least, there is this connect approach that we think is important. And in that context, I would like to name Erasmus Plus, which is a program that the EU has to allow per year roughly 1,000 Ghanaians to study in Europe. So this would be what we would think a rather comprehensive approach that the development partners can take.
Just to do it, that I'm the national focal point for the Erasmus programs in Ghana. And the programs will get beyond the mobility that is mentioned. The EU is also, through the Erasmus program, also have what we call the Youth Mobility Program, which is recently being implemented as part of Sub-Saharan African countries for us to have. In fact, it's NGOs and CBOs who have the chance of applying for such grant by having collaborative partners either within the country or outside the country. Our role as national focal point is to provide the opportunity for youth to be given guidance and support on how we can draft winning proposals that will win when the call for proposals are out. So I believe strongly that the EU has quite a number of actions, about 5 or 6 actions, which are very beneficial, especially to Sub-Saharan Africa, including capacity building for higher education, technical and vocational skills training. I just want to mention.
Okay. I don't know if you could just speak at that one. When we talk about youth empowerment, who is often left out?
Yes, I think that I attended the program originally because of the significant amount of interaction that I do when it comes to development perspectives and my role in cabinet as well. I attended a program for women empowerment or something, gender-based something. And if I mention those who were involved, these are very popular people when gender and social. So they talked about violence, domestic violence, and sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, and all those. So when I finished, I asked them, said, so these people who are sitting here, are they your target group? They say yes. can this be your target group? Because the people that I've seen there, nobody needs to tell them that anybody who wants to sexually abuse them or, in fact, you don't do anything that you can't even make an attempt, let alone to talk about abusing them. These are lawyers, administrators and whatever you are talking to. So I told them, actually the people you should be talking to, they are not here. They are not here. And I think I started this example in one of my presentations. Was it your program over Lisa? I mentioned my wife, in fact, inshallah, by September, she's a general in the military, and she said, "Pilot, do you need to tell my wife? In fact, sometimes when I really want to have time with her, I have to, make her happy. Do you need to tell my wife that she will sexual abuse or violence against women? You gather her here. I mean, if I raise my hand, imagine if I still with her in Jamaica. If I raise my hand, you know how the hand will be handled." So, they were not talking to the target group. So I'm just responding to your question. So what we are doing is that those who are left out are those who are the vulnerable and those who will not even come here. They unmobilize you. They unmobilize you. All the time we are interested in the low-hanging fruit. So we want to talk to them, then we'll go to the university. We can easily get them. They will come. We want to talk to them, then we'll go to meet maybe secondary school students. They will be part. The young man who have not been able to be in school for the past 2-3 years because he could not even afford the school fees. The young girl who could not go to school because he could not even acquire a century card is walking around and will not be part of this your transition or this your meeting or what you are home. But it's the one that is your target group. So far as I've been at the ministry, by the advice of the cabinet, I've made sure that any organization that comes to the ministry, I tell you that in your program, please don't forget about the unmobilized youth. So there are those that are left out. Even though a lot of people, a lot of the NGOs are trying, not SOS how is trying, is working with the vulnerable group and so on and so forth. But it's just a matter of advising. And especially sometimes we get to do that with numbers and brightness. For instance, when you want to do an intervention and the first point of elimination is Greater Accra, I tell people that there's Accra and there's Accra. And now research has shown that urban poverty is even more serious than rural poverty. For example, if I live in Gamaka, okay, and I'm hungry, and the only person who can help me to eat is my uncle, and my uncle is in Kasua, how do I go? But I don't have money in the first place, that's why I'm hungry. I don't like the food to eat. In the rural area, when the guy is hungry, he just walks to the uncle's house and eat. Which of them is more poor? So we need to, even as we are defining our target group, we have to look at target among target. Sometimes what we call the significant profiling. So that we can enroll and the holistic enough, enroll those that actually matter. The good thing about this thing is that when you get the most deprived person to benefit from your program, when they come to the Aha stage, they show the difference. My research of the interaction has shown that the highest sense of entitlement without responsibility is actually among the most mobilized groups. Those who are mobilized, the most vulnerable, you don't have the sense of entitlement, but a very high sense of responsibility. So that is the point that we need to all address. We want to get to that. We can say that really
thank you very much, Mr. Sir. And this is going to be a general question to all of us. If you had the power to change one thing to improve youth empowerment in Ghana, what would it be? So we could start.
First and foremost, I can only repeat the messages that are already passed.
Okay.
Government skills, work on the mismatch between skills and the government. That's one thing.
the social structure. Our social structure is completely broken down. And the break of the social structure is the reason why we are growing the kind of growth that we are growing. When the social structure was wrong, we give back on the force. So I want to improve the social structure.
Say it's a nation of information, relevant opportunity. Because I feel a lot of people do not get to hear opportunities. And sometimes it's not because they do not want to gain a skill, want to do better. But I feel sometimes because some people do not really know some opportunities exist. And when I was in SHS, then I knew that you can only apply for stuff and travel. That was the only opportunity I knew. I didn't know that as a young person, you can apply for skill development opportunities. You can actually go for boot camps, you can go for workshops, you can do fellowship programs, you can apply for accelerations. So I think we need to be able to enhance efforts when it comes to disseminating opportunities to reach the vulnerable and to also reach a lot of people.
Thank you very much.
If I had the power to change one thing, it would be improving access to practical skills and opportunities. Many young people have talents, but they lack the practical skills.
Thank you. And once again, I can only agree. I think access to opportunities for all is key. All levels of background and literacy rate. Okay, so thank you all very much. Now we'll come to our audience. If anyone has a question, a comment, to think about 2, 3.
Thank you very much. It's very insightful. I just want to present this position here and get confirmation from the panel. Before agreeing that unemployment is a major challenge for our people. But the position I want to present is I think we should rather have a conversation about lack of opportunities. But I see unemployment as a symptom of lack of something. And that is lack of opportunity. So let's change the narrative and present the case that there are no opportunities for young people. We sometimes try to massage by saying lack of access to opportunities. But for me, I think the opportunities are not there. If the opportunities are there, then we can raise the narrative to the point that let's help them to have access to it. So that the conversation can be leveled accordingly. So that the young people will be well oriented. Because now the young people think that I don't have a job. And it's somebody's responsibility to create or give me a job. But that shouldn't be the case. The case should be that I need opportunity. Let's look at the fashion industry now. It's out of somebody's group of 10. That indicates that Friday, let's wear African print. And the fashion industry is now booming because of that group of 10. So that should be the conversation going forward. And I thank my director so much for re-emphasizing my principle in coming to youth work. And I've always believed that young people, and I tell my staff, young people are not those abject, really. They are not only the young people who should service, but you should go down to look at where we need our services. So I thank you very much for this discussion. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to appreciate all the panelists for making a very good attempt to explain some of the things that will support our youth work. Sir, I have a question for you. Thank you for picking on the issue of the social structure. And we work in the communities. We are in communities from the south all the way to the north. My question to you is that what is the continuum, or what are those factors that continually break down the social structure. And part of that, bringing our children on the street, and they are growing up as youth on the street. What can we do to ensure that we work towards improving the social structure? And what are some of those social structures that are continually breaking down?
So let me address your question. We want to ask that. So you find that one of the biggest threats to the foundation of our social structure is our wrongfully or wrongly adaptation of culture. You'll find that some few years back, every child was everybody's child. So if you were found to be walking and loitering about in the community, you will find an elderly or a grown-up who want to find out why you are idle, why you are not in school, why you are not in the farm, why you are in a river when you are not supposed to be in the river. In fact, where I grew up from, my hometown, I remember that the first time when I got my PhD, I had to move straight to a gentleman just close to my house, and I thanked him. This was somebody who never had a kid on his own. He never came there. He never had a kid. But the whole community knew that guy. If you were in the town, you were not in school, you were eyes out watching, because you know that if he meets you, in fact, he will carry you with his bicycle and take you to school. Now that structure has completely broken down, to the extent that even your own siblings can no longer even have any guidance or counseling for your siblings' children. But that structure was there to provide mentorship, guidance, and counseling. There were other traits that were transited or transformed or transferred from generation to generation through culture. For example, blasphemy. We had a lot of blasphemies who were now paid to steal, to provide skills, and so on and so forth. All those structures are completely broken down. The idea of the fact that we used to have the system of where everybody or each other's keeper. Nobody needs to tell you that that is no longer the case. No longer the case now is everybody for himself, God for us all. But we have forgotten that that same social structure that has brought people together and has promoted communism and volunteerism is even based on that structure that you find the support that we are getting, even from the EU. Because this support that they are giving us is from the taxpayers' money, from the EU. That is why we must have to make sure that the investment we are going to do yields necessary dividends and returns. Because it's somebody's taxpayer. Somebody has paid. Because the person understands that in this world, you cannot live in isolation. You need support. You need to bring people up. You need to support, and they take that kind of pride and happiness of seeing smiles on the faces of the funeral and the people. That used to be our culture. Does that culture still prevail? That people really want to see smiles on the faces of the vulnerable? Do people want to see smiles on the faces of the poor? And it then cascades into even the system of governance that we have. For example, every public servant is expected to provide service. And when there is service, the conundrum is that it means that there is a servant and there is a master. So when you are a public servant, it means that you are
servant providing service to your master. Who are your masters? Your masters basically are the citizens and the poor. And every servant takes pride and happiness from the pride and happiness of your master. So if you have a servant who is happier than your master, it means there's a problem. But what do we see? Even in our public governance, the servants are consistently happier and the masters are consistently what? That's a recipe for disaster. So that kind of social structure that we are coming up with, or we are inventing into our system, is problematic for the development of the youth of our country. Unfortunately, because of the social structure again, and the fact that we do not have that guidance for our youth, they do their own mentions and leave. So you find that the youth who probably want to become a medical doctor, if you get closer to him and you ask who's your mentor, his mentor is Shatawai. I say Shatawai is not, but that would be for music and not for you to be a medical doctor. Okay? And we have not found replacement for even the breakdown of the social structure. the money and what should be used for. This time around, the money has gone directly to the National Youth Fund to implement the program. So the money goes directly to the program. People look at the Agricultural program. Those days, the money would have been at the ministry, and the ministry would decide what will happen. Now, the money has gone directly to the National Entrepreneurship Improvement Program for them to implement. It's the same with the 1 million Buddha program. So government has moved away, and especially with the establishment of our ministry, we have always advocated that the money must go directly to the program to make sure that it's implemented. So it's unfortunate that there's no enough budget for welfare, social welfare, and in fact, that should be the case. And in the case of the patronizing of the products of young people and so on and so forth, we are working on what we call the startup agency. I don't know if you have heard about it. We want to have a startup agency. Startup agency. In fact, the National Entrepreneurial and Improvement Program will transform or transmogrify, or whatever you call it, or metamorphosize into startup. So what the startup will do is that it will train entrepreneurs, enhance their capacities, their financial base, their market base, and so on and so forth, and also to strive to create access to market, especially for young persons. In fact, the basic problem or the basic advantage of the startup agency will be for the youth, to support youth entrepreneurs, to train them, to enhance them, to provide them with startups, and ensure that the products that they have are patronized, not only in Ghana, but across the world. That's one of the things that government should do. But I can agree with you that if you ask a young man to go into shoemaking, like somebody was telling me the last time, he has done the shoes, then he's starting to sell the shoes, and you come and pass the shoes, then you go and buy another, and then he stands there for some time. It's possible the following day you will not continue to work on the shoes. Then you leave. But we also will need to guide the young person to understand that the skills that they have are also opportunities, like the regional director was talking about. For instance, I was marveled to understand that these skills that they use for, how do you call it, sakawa, and then of late what they call romance camp. You heard about it? Yes. Understand the same technology, the same skills, with a little bit of touch, is used for animation. And animation fetches millions of dollars. So the question I ask myself is, are the young people aware that these skills that they are wasting in looking for somebody to say that you are a woman or a man can be used for something else? So these are some of the things that we want to look at in terms of creativity, innovation, and provision of the patronage of or access to market of young people, young persons who are in production and into sales and entrepreneurship.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our discussion. And today's discussion reminds us that youth empowerment is not the responsibility of one actor alone. It requires collaboration, inclusion, and intentional action. So let us move from beyond the conversations to commitment and then action. So thank you very much for joining us in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Shaibu, and the team of experts. All right. I want to announce a small adjustment to the program. On the program, we should have gone for lunch and come back. But a bird whispered in my ear that we just have about 2 items to go, and so we could just finish up and go for lunch. And I know you agree with me, so I thank you very much. We have heard a lot from Mr. Sani Adam Mohammed. We know that he is representing the Honorable Minister, and we are also aware that he's probably brought a message from the Honorable Minister. So we'll give the floor to Mr. Sani Adam Mohammed to give us a word he's brought us from the Minister. Thank you very much.
So much. I was thinking that the discussion that I delivered and participated, all that I said there was under the authority of the Honorable Minister. Sometimes because of my own I come here, the Honorable Minister who was invited, and indeed he had asked me to sit in. So I will say that the Honorable Minister is very much pleased. Hello? Okay. You want it? Is it the one? Yes, so, okay. So the SOS executive director, country director, managers, and other directors of the SOS, the executive director and directors and staff of the Santaba, the directors of all other partners, the EU, our main partner, supporter, and sponsor, creator of this program, our young persons present here, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you very warm felicitations from the Honorable Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Honorable George Parado, Esquire. I also bring you very warm greetings from the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. It is one of the biggest pleasures and honors to be invited as a ministry and indeed a sector leading the development and empowerment of the youth of our country. It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, to tout the establishment of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment of the Republic of Ghana in 2025 as one of the strategic achievements of the government of Ghana and the commitment of the government of Ghana for the development and empowerment of the youth of our country. You will realize that matters about the development of the youth were mainstreamed in other institutions and other sectors since the creation of Ghana in 1957. At one time, youth development was part of education. In another time, youth development was part of science and technology. Another time, just very recently, it was part of sports. We have Ministry of Youth and Sports. And I can tell you from my experiences and my presence that when it was part of youth and sports, a chunk of the investment of that ministry went into sports. Indeed, not just all sports, but we all know football. I can understand that football is the thing for Ghana. But you also understand that when you have a critical mass of our society that is left out, it tells you that you are investing probably in the wrong direction. So the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment was created, if you want, as a kind of an affirmative action to direct its energies and mandate and capacity to develop the youth and the critical mass working. The statistics are very obvious. By the 2021 census, the youth form about 38.2% of our population, as mentioned by the earlier speaker. But that is just the legal age of 15 to 35. But if you were to consider a youth in terms of 35 years and below, then we are talking close to about 60% of our population. And we are told that this current population of 15 to 35, that's 38.2%, as he rightly mentioned from the onset, about 11.7 million. And we are expecting that in the next 10 to 15 years, this population would have increased to about 17.7 million. But what is important is that unemployment stood one of the highest in our country. I can tell you that in this country, anytime we mention unemployment, for every 10, 7 of them are youth. But for me, that is not even the most triggering factor. The most triggering factor is the vulnerable unemployment. And we are talking about close to 1.34 million of our youth being vulnerable employed. And this is likely to increase to almost 4 million in the next 10 years. What it means to be in vulnerable employment is even more serious and more dangerous and more riskier than being unemployed. What it means is that the person is employed today, but he's not sure whether he's having employment tomorrow or not. So even as the guy is sleeping, he's not sure of what will happen tomorrow. That's what we are talking about. We are also talking about a country where we have about 100 universities, as I have mentioned, churning out of about 200 graduates every year. 200,000 graduates every year. And we are told that out of the 200,000 graduates, only 5% of that population gets into meaningful and sustainable employment 4 years to 5 years after their national service. That tells you the kind of population that we are, the dynamics that we are thinking about. So when we took over, and indeed as the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment was established, we have some few areas of priorities. And because this objective matches clearly with the objectives and the priorities that we have mentioned at the ministry, it is important for me to outline some of the priorities that we have. The first priority of the ministry, as I said, is employment. We are looking forward to how we can get our youth into meaningful and sustainable employment. We have some few. So that's the technology guidance. Okay. So I'm saying that one of the priorities of the ministry is actually looking at employment, how we can fetch employment for the youth of our country. The second priority is entrepreneurship. And I'm happy that this program is hammering seriously on entrepreneurship. We need to look at how we can prepare our youth towards entrepreneurship. The employment of the country has two fundamental solutions. The first solution is the entrepreneurship as we are talking about, so that the youth can employ themselves and perhaps also employ others. So that they will be looking at something rather than thinking about somebody that will employ them. But we also looking at labor. And one of the things we are looking at also is to prepare significant labor in all the skills that is required and test the global waters of labor transfer. So youth mobility and labor transfer is very important as well as the critical avenues of finding our youth in sustainable employment. And as I've mentioned already, one of the key areas that the Honorable Minister, by matching others, is also considering is mentorship, coaching, guidance, and counseling. I've already told you that a lot of our youth have a lot of energies, a lot of capacities. What they really require is to direct these energies into the reasonable, more meaningful senses that is expected for them to be able to deliver. So therefore, mentorship, coaching, guidance and counsel is very important for us. We also believe strongly that for this country to develop, we need a critical mass of our society, which is the youth, to be part and parcel of the decision-making process. I have always said that leadership in every province, without the cooperation of the youth, of the critical mass of your economy, wouldn't take you anywhere. And therefore, we are also looking at leadership, democracy, and governance. So one of the things that the Honorable Minister is looking at is to establish what we call a Center of Excellence for Youth Development and Empowerment. That Center of Excellence for Youth Development and Empowerment, which has to do with democracy and leadership, will prepare our leaders for advocacy, for decision-making, for policy intervention, and of course taking leadership positions in our country. So the Center of Excellence for Leadership, Governance, and Democracy is one of the critical things that we are looking at as part of the priorities of the ministry. Beyond that, we are looking at mindset transformation. I just mentioned that in my discussion, that you find a young person who is sitting in an entrepreneurship class, he is thinking about who will employ. It's about mindset. You'll find a young person who has a sense of ownership, a sense of entitlement, which is good, without a sense of responsibility. Therefore, the science of transformation, the mindset and transformation, is very paramount to us as a country if we want to develop the youth for our country. One of the critical areas which we also need to look at is coordination. The coordinatory function of the activities of youth development is very paramount to us. In other words, I have just mentioned there are a lot of development programs, a lot of support programs, a lot of empowerment programs are going on. But who coordinates and what is the framework for coordination? So how much investment is enough is enough. In other words, how much programs is enough is enough. How much investment or intervention is enough is enough. That has to be coordinated. And that's one of the critical areas that we are looking at. Another critical area that we are looking at is investment. Our data show that all across Europe, they are spending close to 36% of their annual GDP on youth development and empowerment. In Asia, they are spending close to 25% on youth development and empowerment. In across Africa, and I'm a member of the technical team for the development of youth policy, the ECOWAS youth policy. And I can tell you that the data gathered so far, the Sub-Saharan Africa is investing less than 10% on youth development and empowerment. That's highly problematic. But the question is how much investment is investment. We need to come together to understand what it means and how much it will cost us to develop. So that as we are moving along, we are able to translate every investment and the needed returns that we are having from youth development and empowerment. To contain the situation, government intervention has been very clear that we develop skills through vocational and technical training as well as technology in terms of investment into the generality of the gig economy. Another area that we need to look at is the environment and sustainable development. And I can tell you that most of the youth that are involved in this Galamsey and others, they strategize as people, as country, as nations, as a state, in directing their resources into socio-economic and sustainable development to be able to get somewhere. I just give you one example. Very recently, I had the opportunity to participate in others on behalf of the Honorable Minister. What the project seeks to do is to use a kind of like sustainable energy in terms of charcoal production and how very minimal charcoal can be used for processing garri. And that when they are able to process garri, they will be able to calculate the carbon reserves. And you know that carbon trade is one of the famous trade across the world with a lot of money. So a lot of you are going to be employed in that direction to be able to do something. So again, sustainable and environmental development is one of the areas that we are doing. So what we want to say, or what we intend to do, is to say that this ministry is very much open to collaboration and partnership. And we wish to support any organization, any NGO any CBO, any philanthropist that is ready to support the development of our country. I said it in a very jovial way, that in this country we say that we do not need to change the winning team. You are already in the process, and we want to work with you and to ensure that the National Youth Authority, the National Savings Authority, the National Entrepreneurial and Improvement Innovation Improvement Agency, and then the YE, the Youth Employment Agency, are strengthened enough to work with you to ensure that the development of our youth is being in a higher level. Please note, in many situations, the focus is that the youth is the development and that the youth is the future of our country. But if you want your future to be bright, you must start your investment today. I have said everywhere that I've gone that sometimes we look too much into tomorrow that we tend to forget that today was yesterday's tomorrow. The investment of the youth doesn't need to wait, it has to be done tomorrow, today. And for us to do it today, we need to work together collaboratively, having the sense of purpose that the future of our country resides on the young people of our country, and that no service, no institution, no country survive, and this country called Ghana will live in destitute and in debt and be buried if the youth of our country is not properly nurtured. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Mohammed, for this thought-provoking address. I don't know what we would have lost if we hadn't called you to come. Now we are at the climax of this event. It is one of the most important items on the program. We will call on the European Union delegation to give us a statement and proceed with the official launch. Thank you very much.
Director of the Youth Development and Empowerment Ministry, representatives of government agencies working in the youth sector, project implementers, SOS Children's Village, Ghana and Netherlands, Social Innovation Africa, and Songhana. Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, and of course, most importantly, dear youth representatives, good afternoon on behalf of the delegation of the European Union to Ghana. It is fantastic to see such a turnout at the official launch of the Spark Youth Changemakers project, which is part of the EU-Ghana Youth Empowerment Program. First, I would like to thank you all for attending, and in particular SOS Children's Village for organizing the event. I'm delighted to be here today representing the European Union for the beginning of this important project. The path that has led us to today's milestone began over a year ago with the launch of the call for proposals under the EU-Ghana Youth Empowerment Program. Through this initiative, the EU allocated more than €2.6 million to empower Ghanaian youth, with a particular focus on strengthening organizations. We warmly congratulate SOS Children's Village for being awarded this project, following a highly competitive selection process, and for embracing the challenge of advancing on our shared vision, that's to foster an enabling environment for youth organizations. Every week, the EU delegation receives requests for many inspiring initiatives organized by youth groups. We're therefore especially pleased that through this project, Spark, we are now able to support them in a more structured and sustainable manner, with due consideration for the long-term financial viability. I can tell from the innovations during the panel discussion, interest in public affairs, entrepreneurship is already present. It just remains for us to invest in our youth. Undoubtedly, the drive to encourage active youth involvement and equip them with the necessary support is vital now more than ever. Today, the youth make up a high percentage of Ghana's population, and to refrain from supporting them means ignoring the majority of the population. When we first discussed this project's launch with SOS Children's Villages, we noted the point that we should not just be working for the youth, but we should be working with the youth. And this is true. Who would be better placed to actually promote change and address these challenges than the youth-led CSOs themselves? To remind you all, this project will aim to engage 300 different CSOs, with a grand total of 500,000 ultimate beneficiaries across the regions in focus. The European Union has a strong track record of commitment to promoting opportunities for and interests of in Ghana, 50 years of engagement between us. Youth participation in civil society remains a key priority for the EU. And by providing the correct support to youth-led organizations, we can expect to see a tangible impact on youth employment, skills, access to resources, and sustainable financing concepts. The EU and Ghana share a common vision in empowering youth, and we can observe many points of alignment between Ghana's national youth policy and the EU's Youth Action Plan. The EU's first policy framework, by the way, is dedicated to building strategic partnerships with young people worldwide. A concrete example of this partnership is our ongoing collaboration with the National Youth Authority in the development of the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. We are pleased to be funding the upcoming Youth Stakeholder Consultation to ensure meaningful engagement of young people in shaping policies that affect them. Alongside this project, the EU invests in initiatives designed to foster meaningful youth engagement in policy dialogue, such as the Sounding Board, from whom one member has been in attendance today. We run regular consultations on our policies to ensure that youth perspectives remain a priority across all sectors and that their inputs are present in the projects and actions that the EU funds. Once more, thank you all for attending this launch event, and we look forward to seeing the positive impacts that this project will surely have. Thank you very much. Mesdames.
I think you are not done, Lisa. Please come back. So she will do the lunch and sign the commitment for us.
So I hereby declare this project SPART launched.
Thank you very much. We will call on the National Director for SOS Children's Villages, Ghana, to also sign his commitment.
Oh, Alex.
all Sokara, Sia, Mr. Pierre, Marion, all of you, the front, in that order, sign your commitment. Thank you very much. So the rest of us, hey, Mr. Mohammed, I almost left you out, sorry. Yes, on behalf of the project manager. The rest of us will have the opportunity to sign later on. Thank you. The project is now duly launched, and we have come to the end of the program. The next will be to take some photographs here. First of all, I'll invite people in front, and then we'll all join them to take a group photograph. I have been your MC, and my name is Bernard Amwako. Thank you for cooperating with me, and thank you for allowing me to MC this program. Thank you very much. So we ask our colleagues in front to come first for the picture taking, and the rest of us will join later. So the rest of us, you can continue signing your commitment in the corner. Asha, put the band. Now the rest of us join them in front for the group Please come forward. Please come forward. Thank you very much. Now we can go down to the restaurant for lunch. Thank you for coming. And do have a safe day back.
Movimento.